Welcome to the Women in Government Forum, and I'd like to begin by thanking Her Excellency Ohud Rumi for convening this forum so that we can hear from some of the most phenomenal leaders globally who are shaping a more powerful future that embraces women to the benefit of all. And as we know from the UAE's leading global example, successful transformative policies that ensure social resilience are policies that are designed fundamentally with women at the core. Governments with women leading social policy reforms are the governments that situate gender mainstreaming at the forefront and are proactively ensuring an integrative vision is applied. My name is Sally Mousa, and I'm honoured to be sharing the stage here with three exemplary ministers from around the world to discuss the challenges and opportunities for women in leadership, beginning right here with Her Excellency Patricia Francourt, Minister for Employment and Social Affairs for the Republic of Seychelles, Her Excellency Gordana Čomić, Minister of Human and Minority Rights for Serbia, and last but certainly not least, Her Excellency Hessa Buhumaid, Minister of Community Development for the UAE. Thank you all so much for joining us. And Your Excellency, Minister Čomić, if I can start with you. It's very important. We've heard a lot about why it's so important to have women as part of building communities and nations that thrive. And I'd love to hear from you on that, why it's so important, but also for you to talk a little bit about the importance of breaking traditions and breaking barriers if we do want to see more women participating in government leadership.
Nothing can stop idea whose time has come. And I think the idea that we are witnesses and participants of the time of that idea are women with rights on half of everything, because we are half of everything. And what once upon a time in Europe was the Enlightenment movement, what once upon a time in Islam was different steps of enlightenment, that is for 21st century women of the world. We are the enlightenment for the future. And that's the idea that we should work for. Why do I mention tradition and my modern role as a woman should be harmonized, not confronted, because that is the Enlightenment. We were educated to be the part of politics. We were educating until we fainted. We were told what should we do to be as good in politics as men. Nobody educated them. And, you know, there are a few that should be educated, more or less. We all know them. It's not just about education for skills that are political, financial, social, whatever, which we were denied during eons and thousands of years. It's about learning to have a dialogue about mutual improvement, men and women. And that's what we have in tradition, not just in this part of the world, but throughout the world. We are taught in our small school of females' life to take care of others. And men are not. They just there to, you know, to enable someone to take care of others. So our dialogue is, let's talk about it. Let us women just have and pursue our career, enabling everyone to have what is needed, and let some men, educate them to take care of others. Because that is what, from my point of view, 21st century is all about. Enlightenment, to start to take care about other human beings, about environment, about our planet as a whole, and about human rights. If we build resilience in that sphere, then we will win.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yes, exactly. And it is vital really to think about that, exactly as you just said, that the place of women, we are taught that we are there. Our value comes in taking care of other people. And it's not usually in being the leader and being the front runner, and that is something that definitely needs to break around the world. So thank you for that. And Minister Francourt, I'd love your input on that, of where you see that we need to be creating more inclusive approaches when we're designing social policies that include women into government as well.
Thank you very much. And I thank Excellency for giving us the opportunity to be here today. So thank you. I'm going to talk from a very tiny island perspective, the Seychelles. And as you know, the beautiful Seychelles is colorful, is sunny, 365 days a year almost. And it's a beautiful nation. And we're proud here to be with our sisters in government. We have 5 ministers in the cabinet, and all 5 ministers are here. So it just shows the prominence that the president and right to the very top gives to women in power. And we are doing a great job. Let me start from a very real perspective, very real. I was one of those women who left the Seychelles many years ago, many years ago, and went to live abroad. I lived in the UK for many reasons, political reasons. I had to leave the country. And I had the greatest opportunity to be able to learn and understand and educate myself and become resilient. It's tough. When you come from an island and you live in a very big country, it's very tough. So I always used to look at myself and say, hey, if I can do it, everybody else can. All women can. And there is a strength that gets built in you. There is a passion that gets built in you. And there is the resilience that gets built in you that further on you want to share. And I think for us women, the way forward is to share what we get as successes. And if we get those successes, why do we keep it for ourselves? If we learn how to be successful, why do we keep it for ourselves? We must be able to come and share. And that was one of my greatest vision and dream, to come back to my native island, the Seychelles, and share what I had acquired in a bigger world. So I came back, and I wasn't a politician like most of us lady ministers are. We are not. But we were successful in our own rights in promoting women to be empowered. And I remember way back coming, and I said, what am I going to do to make a difference to Seychelles, my island? What am I going to do? And I remember sitting in a cold winter day in England, and I said, let me start building cabinets and cabinets of resources that I can bring back. And I did. When I came back, I actually launched a series of workshops empowering you to empower yourself. So I targeted women who I felt were very vulnerable. I targeted women who were already in leadership, but they needed to go the extra mile or believe in themselves. So I understand my country. Nobody else understands my country. So I understood what my country needed and what the women needed. And my other job before becoming a minister is a psychotherapist. So I understand human behaviors. I understand how people respond to eventualities, especially when situations are very tough. So this was my forte. This is what I brought back. I did not separate what I knew I could do well to what I was going to do.
I have to ask you, what's the most important thing that you learned in your struggles that you brought to that?
What I learned the most is to be able to not give up, even when you are the minority. Do not give up. And it is so important. I learned how to push and challenge. Even when they say no, challenge. Even when they say you can't do it, challenge. So I learned how to be self-empowering. Me was one way to self-empower others. I learned how to have my own affirmations. I woke up every day and I looked in the mirror and I thought, I'm great, I'm successful, I can do it, I'm beautiful. So it's those strong affirmations that actually carry through. And if you're singing these songs and if you are saying those statements on a daily basis to the women in front of you, they're going to acquire these beliefs that you hold, and they're going to look into their own selves and understand their own beliefs. And very strongly, we work on a lot of the mental health perspective, so promoting positive mental health, so that the women understand, who am I? What are my objectives in life? What are my purposes in life? So bringing this message on a daily basis, and I know my ministers' colleagues here, we do that every single day, where we are bringing the messages, where people start to believe. And if people start to believe, they start feeling it. If they start feeling it, they're going to behave in the way and perform in the way that they are feeling. If they are also feeling it and behaving in the way that they should, their perspectives of life changes and their internal talk changes. So they start to be strong and resilient, and they will not stop.
Ooh. Oh, I'm feeling it. Who else is feeling it here? I'm totally feeling it. And you're absolutely right, Minister Francourt, because when just you sharing your story, and this is something that's really important, was talked about in the panels before, storytelling, telling our story. When you empower yourself and you tell me your story, I become better because I've heard it and I feel it. And you've done that for so many other women. And I thank you for that. It's incredible, and it's so vital, because we become someone else. We realize what possibilities there are for us as women, and what has been waiting for us to step into. And so I'd love to come to you now, Minister Buhumaid. Obviously, the UAE is such a shining example. When we talk about women in leadership, when we talk about women in government, it's incredible when I sit in this room with all of these amazing ministers. So I would love to hear from you, and sort of a little bit back to Minister Francourt, the idea of women who are also mothers in government. How important is that? How do we also not just have women in government, but more embracing mothers as well? What a difference that can make, and how do we do that? What kind of strategies should we be putting in place for that?
Well, thank you very much, Sally, for tapping on a very, very important topic, and I'm so glad that I was given that part. Within the last 2 years during COVID, and you can understand, and everyone here can imagine how hard and difficult it was for the whole world to digest what we were going through. Let alone us in the United Arab Emirates being, the government of the future, and the government that runs 24/7 and all that. Now, talking about a very futuristic government that has 50% of decision-making in FNC, the Federal National Council, being led by women, having 27% of our ministerial positions led by women, all these numbers, wonderful numbers. But again, now, these women also do have other roles in the community. She can be a mother, she can be a daughter, she can be a sister, she can be a grandmother, she can be an aunt, you name it. While we were going through that hassle, we understood that families also need to be taken care of. At one point of time, we had all of our, the school were all working from, right from classrooms went back to homes, and then we were working from home. But this woman, whether she's a minister, whether she's a teacher, whether she's a mother, whether she's a businesswoman, whoever she is, also had other responsibility to do. And because families come at the right and the heart of anything we do in the United Arab Emirates, to ensure the cohesiveness, to ensure that those family members are working together for the better of this government, a very brave decision was taken that all mothers, working mothers in the government of the United Arab Emirates, whether they're on the federal or local government, if this mother has a child under the age of 10, which is equivalent to grade 6, do have the privilege to stay at home, continue her work from home, even when we went back to our offices. Just to show you that next generations, we believe, are being led by women. And we know that probably I would say, I wouldn't say 100%, but I would say probably 90% of us being in this room is because of a very strong woman, which we call mom, back at home, made us where we are here today. For that reason, it was very important for the UAE government to be as fast as it usually is, but also very, very open for such decisions. We have never tried it before, but we had to try it. We never thought about it, but now we are understanding the benefits of such very important policies at that right time. Probably at that time, we didn't have much time to decide. Probably it was a matter of hours, but we had to take the decision and empower women, not only in whatever we were doing in the last 50 years, but I would love to talk about it, but even at a very important time where this woman is playing more than one role.
And that's exactly right, because what's really important here is that there's often a disconnect between a woman who is a mother and a woman who is in a leadership role. And there's a great example of that. Who knows the riddle of the doctor and his son who were in a car accident? Who's heard that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so the riddle goes that a doctor and his son were in a car accident, and the doctor dies at the scene. His son is rushed to hospital, and the doctor, who is about to perform emergency surgery on him, says, "I cannot perform on this boy. He is my son. How can this be? How can this be? How can this be?" We still have so many people going, "I don't know." The doctor is his mother. And so we see there is this disconnect. We don't think of women as these leaders, as these experts, and also mothers. And so this is so incredibly important. Minister Čomić, if I can come back to you. And, you know, this is something very interesting that you said to me, that, you know, this is about the power that women have over their lives and over their futures and over the future of the planet, in fact. So in making progress, how can we make changes to the fabric of power itself, and from having power over someone to having power for something? So I'd love for you to speak to that.
That's exactly what women around the planet they are doing. We used to witness power of being subjected to the power that is over me. We used to people patronizing, men mainly, telling me about the things that I know much more and better. And usually I ignore that, you know, leave him, don't make him unhappy. But sometimes I have to say, look, I'm physicist by formal education. I can explain in 2 minutes, first 3 minutes of the universe. So give me your checks. The problem is that it is easy to use the power over someone. You beat a child. You are in quarrel with your mother-in-law or with your husband. You disrespect your friend. It's easy. If you are in position to have a power, the easiest thing is to misuse it and have it as over someone. What the hard process is to change the nature of power and use that power for something. And these are women all around the world. You know, I'm female by accident. I could be a male. I wouldn't like it, probably, but I could be a male, but I'm politician on purpose because I wanted to be a politician. And when people want to join political parties, you have women joining political parties asking, what shall I do? Because she was taught, if you do and do well, you will be rewarded. On the other hand, men are coming and say, what shall I be? You know, because the minute he enters the room, it's a Churchill, Roosevelt, and him. And what we want to do in Serbia especially is to use those examples to change the power that is often used over someone to power for something. That's equality. That's don't patronize me. That's treat equally your son and your daughter. That's also change the person who you put the question, how do you harmonize your career and your private obligations? That's what I've done in one survey in Serbia. I said, don't ask women. You will hear long stories. I have 4 kids, so I have a very long story. 2 boys, 2 girls, gender balanced, I take 2 kids. So this is not a question for women. This is a question for men. Try to ask a man, that's changing of power. How do you harmonize your private obligations and your political? They don't understand the question. What's there to be an obligation when private life is in question? That is changing, and we have to do it through the dialogue, and that is how men will feel better. That is how men will be enriched with all those beautiful things that we have taking care of our families. Can we do it? Of course we can. We are already here. So my proposal is don't lose time. Change that power, change the world. There is no one else to do so. If it would be easier to change the world for better, men would be doing it, but it's not easy, so it will be us women around the world.
We have to do it together, and thank you so much for that. Minister Francourt, if I can come back to you. Last week, we saw the Commission on the Status of Women for the first time looking at the need for gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls in the context of climate change, environmental disaster, and risk reduction policies and programs. So can you talk to us a bit, particularly as the Seychelles, as an island nation, why that's important to ensure a place for women when we are designing the solutions necessary to tackle climate change?
Thank you so much for the question. Again, in Seychelles, there is a great spiritual leader who always tells us, he says, if you want anything done, ask the women to come forward. And it's true, it's true. In Seychelles, we see the women as drivers, right? We are drivers. The population of Seychelles is just under 100,000 people compared to other countries and your country and your countries as well. And we have 48% females and then 52% are males. When you look at the very top, you have we're just under 50% of women leading. But then you get to the executive levels below, you have a higher majority of women leading. From a very young age, I think Seychelles, with the demographics that it has, we have been taught how to preserve. We have been taught how to keep what God has given us intact. We have been taught to pay value to what is our food, fishes, and things that grow naturally, everything that is intended of how it was. So we are basic. We are basic. And I think sometimes being basic is the best part. So at a very young age, all those kind of talks have been instilled in us. So it's no coincidence that you see women in the driving seats preserving. It's no coincidence that you see women coming forward, going into areas of conservation, for example. We have 115 islands in the Seychelles to preserve. We have younger women going into fields where they've never been before, conservationists, working with animals, working with the oceans. And their messages are strong, very, very strong. And they're nurturing a culture of also keeping it real. I mean, we can be very exposed in Seychelles in being what we call a copycat nation because we get exposures from all over the world. But I think our youths, our women, our girls have understood about keeping things real at a level that is preserving all the time. So when we have campaigns, when we have Cleaning the Environment Day, or Let's Clean the Sea Day, the River Day, and all of those things, these women will come forward. You'll see them leading in the front. They will come. It's not because it's a chore. It's not because we are asked to. It's because we have to. And they're thinking longer term. They're thinking the next generation. They want to be able to take their children to the beaches. And the beaches are clean. And we are not having things coming all the way from the rest of the world coming on our seashores. And we have to be the victims all the time. One of our main island, which is called Aldabra, for example, is a UNESCO heritage one, which we have to preserve. There was a campaign where they asked for the youths to apply and actually go and clean the island. And there were hundreds and thousands of tons of waste that landed on this island, a UNESCO heritage. That wasn't our waste. it came from all the way from other parts of the world, larger countries, but we are the victim. So you see there is urge for people to come forward because they feel they have the responsibility. So right across the board, I feel that we don't take the blessings that we have for granted. We actually embrace what we have and we nurture it and we learn how to keep it. So there is it feels like there is a movement in ladies and women and even the children to be able to put into existence what we feel will benefit the next generation. And this is very powerful because they don't wait to say, come and do this, come and do that. They come forward willingly. So that culture has been instilled. And anything to do with, let's preserve our country, the climate change, anything else. Anybody who can do a little thing that will make a difference for the next generation, they will willingly come forward. And that is a great attitude.
And it's always women at the forefront that
Absolutely.
we see of these movements, which is
Absolutely.
so incredibly vital.
Absolutely.
As we come to the end of the session, I want to give you the last word, Minister Buhumaid. In terms of what you would like to see now, what are the challenges that still face us in seeing women in positions of leadership, particularly in government? And what do you see as the way forward? Particularly, we've spoken a lot about having men as allies in this because we cannot do it alone.
Absolutely.
We have to do it, whether it's climate change, any of the big challenges that we have in the world, we cannot do it alone. We have to do it together. So I'd love your thoughts on that.
Thank you very much, Sally. It's very important. I mean, we all feel like the whole world have just suddenly woke up. We know how powerful women is. And we're very happy and glad and proud to see this not only happening in specific countries around the world, but we can actually see it around the world, the whole world. So now, since we have the registrations in place, we've got programs in place, strategies in place, it's the right time for implementation. Now we have to walk the talk. We want to ensure that, as our colleagues and our colleagues who have been on this panel earlier said, it's a matter of who do we put in the position that will help other women as well. Who is the right person who you put in that position that will help men as well? We cannot be biased and we cannot take one side over the other. That's why the right, correct policies need to be in place to ensure that there is a balance, that we are taking care of everyone in the society. Every member of the society and the family need to understand what he or she need to do and how do they need to do it. And when approaching this with a very balanced strategy, we will definitely be able to arrive. There's also very important emphasis that we need to ensure that we're not even focusing on youth, but even childhood. We need to go back to the age where, I wouldn't say 0, but I would say months probably, to 7. This is an extremely important years of a human being, whether it's a boy or a girl. We need to ensure that the next generations to come, I mean, we did a wonderful job, and we're still doing a wonderful job with our youth, with our teenagers, but now we need to even go back to the earlier age, because this is where the future secret is. Our seniors are being taken care of. We want to ensure that this bridge is always there, men and women. But let's also focus about our childhood and ensure that they're protected, they are enriched, that they're always upfront when policies are made in the government.
Absolutely. And this is where it starts as well, where we tell the stories that are going to shape those boys and girls into who they're going to become in the future. And so we need to tell our girls who they can be, the examples of these incredible ministers. We need to tell our boys as well that this is who these women can be. These are the stories that we need to tell, and we could talk for hours more. But ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Your Excellencies, please join me in thanking our phenomenal speakers. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you.